Okay, for lecture number 2 here, I'm going to talk about the field of health psychology. Now, I myself do asthma research in health psychology. We basically look at the interface between physical and mental emotional health. And we believe there is definitely a relationship between these two. If you're more interested in this kind of information, this summer for the first time at Mary Baldwin College, I'll be teaching an online class in this, and the same in the fall in health psychology. Same grading ideas here. Book information, acoustic information, and things you read in text. So first, if we start on some classic studies in health psychology, stress. A guy named Hans Selye, as pointed out on page 393, came up with the 3 phases when you're faced with stressful life events. Have you ever been in a point in your life where something happens and goes really wrong and it just doesn't stop? I unfortunately know that last semester I was faced with a larger major life events going on with my daughter and my wife, and at the end of the semester the alarm stage happened when some bad things happened even as early as September and October, and there's no doubt in my mind that after that alarm stage significant negative things were happening in my life for the rest of the semester. In December, on December 9th, I ended up having my first epileptic seizure and was in the hospital for 4 days. That's going through the resistance phase and then exhaustion. The idea is when you're in the alarm stage, your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal glands release adrenaline, they release cortisol, they really help you out to get that flight or fight energy, but in the long run, they will suppress your immune system. And so this led to the idea of a field that is called psychoneuroimmunology. Stress, psychology, can stress you out so much it can suppress your immune system and you can get sick. So some classic studies in the field. We start actually with the idea of research done by Friedman and Rosenman in 1959. Before anybody had done this, they observed a group of men who seemed to be very intense, sustained drive for achievement. They were very competitive. When their goals were blocked, they always got frustrated, and they found that they had an increased risk of heart disease. And since it was the group A that was showing this, they came up with the type A personality, which was really the first link between psychology and health, that these kind of personality features, if you have them, can lead to coronary heart disease. So that's a classic study. Another classic study done many years later, 1982, done by Vicentainer and Seligman. Very simple study. They put rats, they put tumor cells in rats, they put them in a maze basically, and they gave them either shocks that they could escape or that they couldn't escape. And it turns out that for the rats that could not escape, where the shock happened and they couldn't do anything about it, 74% of those rats ended up getting cancer basically. And for those rats that could escape, only 27% got cancer. The idea of escapable negative things, if you can't get rid of it, that this could affect your immune system and cause cancer, is certainly part of the field of psychoneuroimmunology. So we have those two kind of classic studies going on, and then like I said, the whole hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis and psychoneuroimmunology kind of helping out there. So a lot of research going on in this field in psychoneuroimmunology of what you can do to damage the immune system. The next thing I wanted to do, though, was share with you some studies about what you could do to help. David Spiegel did a very famous study in 1989. Women who had metastatic breast cancer, they were getting chemo and radiation. Half of them were put in a support group once a week for an hour and a half. And lo and behold, it was found that if you were in a support group once a week for an hour and a half, your survival time was twice as long, 36 and a half months, versus those that weren't, which was like 18 months. 10 years later, 3 people were alive, and it was only the people in the support group. So the question of what does a support group do? Well, a support group gives you emotional support. You can talk with others, you can share the powerlessness, and you can really grow and share and exchange and maybe get rid of all of that toxicity by working on things with others. This led somebody by the name of Kobasa to publish some very interesting work on hardiness. Her study, and let me give you some more of the details here, it was when AT&T was about to lose their monopoly on the phone systems. And a lot of mid-level managers knew the good life was about to end. And she found in her research 3 critical variables that predicted who would get sick and who wouldn't. Everybody was faced with this, but half the managers ended up getting sick and half the managers ended up being healthy. For those that got sick, they defined themselves, these mid-level managers, they knew their job was going to end. They said, I am my job. And thus, if they lost their job, they would be nothing. So that was considered basically uncontrollable stress. They could not control it. It was uncontrollable. Those people who actually, that variable is called, sorry about that, commitment. They only were committed to their job. They defined themselves, they were committed to their job. Other people who didn't get very ill, they said, well, how do you define themselves? Yeah, my job's important. Family, friends, activities. I have a commitment to my whole life. So either self or others, or job or non-job, was the basis for this. Another variable, they asked people, well, do you feel like you can do anything about this? And those people who said, you know what, I can control things. This is just one part of my life. Internal control. Then you felt like you could do something about it. You didn't get sick. If you felt like if it was external control, there's nothing I can do about this, everything's always going wrong for me, you tended to get very sick. And finally, the third variable was challenge. Those people who tended to be healthy said, you know what, I'm going to find another job. I'm going to be healthy. They took it as a challenge. Those people who got very ill tended not to look at it this way. This variable was called hardiness. Do you have a hardy personality? Can you persevere when things go wrong and be strong spiritually? Be strong with your sense of an internal locus of control. See this as a challenge. Have a commitment to yourself, your family, and your life, not just by your job. So that was a very important variable. As we continue on with C here, we found out basically there are 2 types of coping mechanisms people use. Basically one type, many times when we get on ourselves, when we get in trouble, we have terrible things going on in our lives. And what do? We talk to our friends. What do our friends do? Well, sometimes they have answers, but sometimes they're just good listeners. This is called emotion-based coping. In emotion-based coping, the Carver and Shire abstract, the basic idea there is just to be socially supportive, use humanistic listening, validate, help out, and support what people are going through. There's research to show in psychoneuroimmunology, when they did that with the breast cancer patients, that really helps the immune system and the body recover well. The other one is called problem-based coping. And in problem-based coping, the idea is you talk to your friends about things and they give you answers and they give you ideas on what you can do. I'm not sure if I disclosed to the class. I think I did. My bike accident many years ago in 2013, I was put on some medications after that. I have a lot of friends who are pharmacists. When I call my pharmacy friends, they always had very problem-based focused ideas. Here's what you could do. Here's what you could take. Eat this on a full stomach. Drink some water with this. Problem-based focusing. As psychology people, though, don't overlook the emotion-based focusing either. Did I say focusing? Coping either. Finally, the issue of health behavior change is a big deal in psychology as well. A very big, important study done by Dean Ornish back in, what year was this? 1990. He took people that had coronary heart disease and he basically didn't give them any medications, put them on a vegan diet, they stopped smoking, stress management, and a year later they found out that their heart disease was reversed. So the idea of making lifestyle behavior changes seems to lead to the idea that if we can do this, we can improve our health. The problem with Ornich's research, though, is that people many times don't want to do these things. And if you force them to, they will. But then when the study is done, what will they do after that? Another very evidence-based approach is Weight Watchers. I used to be part of Weight Watchers. May need to go back into it again. The idea with Weight Watchers is every week, if you have the face-to-face meetings, you weigh in, so you have accountability. You mark down things on a chart to see what you're eating every day. So if you're eating a bacon double cheeseburger, fries, and onion rings every day, the only other thing you're allowed to eat is lettuce. So that's called self-monitoring. You monitor what your behaviors are. You talk to people each week. You get ideas for what you can do, and it's very much an evidence-based approach with Weight Watchers. Another very important person in the health behavior change field is a guy named Prochaska, James Prochaska, and he came up with this idea of where are people at as far as wanting to change behaviors. And he talked about different levels. I used to be a professor out in Illinois. I had a neighbor who basically drank and watched the Bears all the time on Sunday. He smoked, he drank, he ended up having a stroke, and then a few months later he was back from the hospital. He was doing the same thing again and later ended up passing away. He was at the pre-contemplation level or denial level. I don't think I have a problem. I'm not going to do anything about it. Next level, contemplation. This is where you think, you know what, I do have some health problems, I want to make some changes, but I just can't do it now. How many of you in your lives now are kind of at the contemplation level? Preparation is where you say, you know what, I'm going to do it. New Year's resolutions are a perfect example of preparation. If you actually take action on that and actually get into Weight Watchers or join a gym, then you're in the action stage, and then maintaining that over a long period of time is important as well. Prochaska, if you ever have a chance to go to his website, has a lot of great information on this. And last but not least, I wanted to share with you the program that I actually run. I do asthma research. So what I try to do is get people to change their asthma behaviors. So what I did in my original face-to-face programs is I would have small groups of adults meet for 2 hours once a week. I would do very interactive teaching. I wouldn't just lecture them and do the death by PowerPoint thing. I don't know if I went over approaches to teaching and learning, but the approach of listening to people and using constructivist-based teaching ways of interactive discussions. We talk about what was going on with them. We do behavior modification, get them to self-monitor their asthma-specific behaviors, taking their medicines, avoiding triggers, taking their peak flows, lifestyle behaviors, drinking water, washing hands, exercising. We found that when we did this, post-test, t-test, indicated significant behavior changes. So in my program, I'm a health psychologist. I'm doing this now in an online program, and actually in the fall, if you know of any adults that have asthma or you know of any caregivers who want to take an online course on this, it's a little more challenging there, but we basically do it with the discussion board way, and then I make acoustic lectures. People listen and discuss things some more. So these are all information and ideas in the field of health psychology that you should know and should be able to understand. I think one of the other things that I put in here, well, let's see if I actually put it in here. No, I didn't actually put it in here. So this is the field of health psychology. Outline that, send me drafts, and then post. Thanks. Bye-bye.